Alright, we're back with another video, and this time we're going with that chilled out approach which you all seemed to like very much the last time I did this one. So we're here with one that I've been absolutely smashing the past week, especially in the Onslaught playlist. I just want to go through it, like I say, a bit more of a casual approach, break down what's going on, what I'm using, why I'm doing it, and just show basically how effective it is. This one has got a ton of high level damage. It's going to allow you to deal with all manner of champions, which can be a little bit of a pain point in that Onslaught playlist, especially if you're tackling the Legend one, which this one can do as well, and is perfect especially if you're just farming them first 10 waves, which I know everybody is doing right now, especially in that Legend playlist, just to try and farm some of the weapons. This one is stasis based, and if you haven't guessed, it's all around the big Winterbite Exotic Glaive. Now, this Exotic Glaive, hands down, is one of my favourites to use. If I'm just running around and smashing stuff with it, then it's a good time, and it really is a good time, and you don't have to even use it with a Stasis subclass, but on the Stasis Warlock with the Shadebinder, it's just perfect synergy, and we're going to go into it and show you why. Now, this thing absolutely melted when it first came out and was kind of broken. The big frigid glaive, which is the exotic perk, basically tracks out a heavy stasis projectile which freezes targets, and this thing was doing some crazy damage. I did a video on it and it was basically melting bosses, but now not so much, but it does have some extreme utility, and exotics like this are just basically getting their moment to shine, especially in this playlist when sometimes you're just required to shut down a spawn point or an area by yourself while your teammates go around and do other things or deal with bosses. And again, Winterbite just basically excels at that, and the synergy we've got is just absolutely beautiful, to be honest. You only get 9 ammo in reserves, you get a free in the magazine, and it's pretty paltry, and to be fair, you're gonna run out of ammo pretty quickly if you're just spamming the heavy attack. The main thing with this glaive, and the thing that I think goes underrated, is the intrinsic trait, which is the weighted edge. Now, as long as you've got ammo with Winterbite, any of the glaive melee attacks will freeze that target. Now, this is absolutely perfect for dealing with champions and elite yellow bar enemies, because you will basically apply 40 stacks of slow to an enemy and you only need 100 stacks of slow to freeze that target, and then that's where the synergy all goes with the Shadebinder subclass. Now, one of the big tricks with this Winterbite glaive is that you need to use the glaive shield whilst you're doing the melee attack, and this will allow you to do the melee attack animation just way quicker. I don't know why it works, but it absolutely does, and if you can see from the footage, I'm just going melee crazy. It's just absolutely bonkers. But from that, obviously we're wanting to use the weighted edge melee attack to freeze targets, because that's where we're going in with some subclass synergy, and it all starts with the ice flare bolts. Now, this is quintessential Stasis Warlock. It just makes the whole subclass come together. When you're doing the glaive melee with the Winterbite and you're freezing targets, you're basically going to be instantly shattering them at the same time on that next weighted edge melee attack, and that's just going to send out some frozen seekers to nearby targets, and you're just going to absolutely spawn trap everything with that freeze. You're basically going to be able to shatter that enemy, which the damage from it is going to shatter especially minor trash ads, red bars and all that stuff that spawn, especially in that Onslaught playlist, and they're all just going to be wiped out. It's just absolutely bonkers how easy this is, and if you can see from the footage, I'm basically just chaining this glaive melee back to back to back, and then freezing seekers are just going out and just dealing absolute pain to everything nearby. I'm pretty sure my teammates are, I was just LFGing, just basically just saw the madness and thought, just leave this guy alone, he's just sorting everything out. But from that, obviously we want to increase the stasis damage that we are creating by defeating frozen targets, and there's nothing better to use, especially with the Shadebinder, than the Whisper of Fissures. This will massively increase the damage of shattering stasis crystals or frozen targets, and then this season, if that wasn't enough, we've got a little bit of synergy with the artifact as well. We have got the Pillar of Ice, which is going to create more stasis crystals on defeating frozen targets, which we're going to have an absolute butt ton of frozen targets. And then from defeating frozen targets and stasis crystals, we're going to send out a burst of stasis shards that are going to damage nearby targets and slow them with Hail the Storm. Now this just adds on top of that shatter damage that we're getting from shattering stasis crystals or frozen enemies, and that combined effect with Whisper of Fissures and Hail the Storm is just absolutely deadly at shattering and just deleting and spawn trapping them enemies. Now from that we want a little bit more synergy. Now obviously Winterbite is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, and we're going to get a huge stat boost from the Whisper of Hedrons. Now this is, I think, relatively slept on in stasis subclasses, but and you're basically getting a 60 stat boost to your mobility, resilience and recovery on freezing a target with stasis. I mean, my stats are pretty maxed out as it is. I've got 77 resilience, 100 recovery and 34 mobility, which isn't massively required on a warlock, but we're going to be massively boosting them out, so essentially you don't really need to have maxed out stats in them, and you can probably work into maybe getting your intellect a little bit higher so that you can chuck out your Winter's Wrath super a little bit more often. Like I say, Winterbite is doing a lot of the heavy lifting and you may be getting a little bit overwhelmed, and that's where the Cold Snap Grenade comes in. This is going to allow you to just basically chuck it down, it's going to track to another target and it's going to instantly freeze that enemy. We've got the Bleak Watcher turret, which is going to allow us to maybe use that shorter cooldown with that Cold Snap Grenade to potentially get that stasis turret to help shut down an area, and I think this can come in nicely just to aid your teammates more often than not. I don't like to shut down an area with the Bleak Watcher, especially when I'm running Winterbite, because I'm just going to be deleting enemies far too quickly. But if you want to chuck it on a point where maybe you're not going and just help your teammates to slow down their enemies, it's definitely a handy one to use, and it's just one of the best stasis aspects, to be fair, on Shadebinder. With Shadebinders, there's nothing more better to use than the Osmio Mancy gloves. This is going to give us an extra cold snap grenade, and when them cold snaps hit an enemy, you're going to be able to get grenade energy back. And there's a little trick to this, that if you throw the cold snap grenade and directly hit an enemy before it goes onto the floor and tracks to them, you're going to get that double recharge, and you're basically going to get your cold snap grenades back to back to back. I mean, in this footage, if you haven't seen, then I could throw nearly infinite cold snap grenades, and with that double recharge, it's just absolutely insane how much you can use that cold snap to freeze enemies, and it just works so well in synergizing with Winterbite. For example, if you haven't been able to get that freeze off on a higher health enemy, or you're just dealing with a ton of red bars, then it's nice to just start that chaining effect. With Winterbite, we want to boost its damage a little bit, and the Stasis Cypher mod on your helmet is going to do all of that. Along with the triple stasis weapon surge on your legs, you're going to be doing a ton of melee and heavy projectile damage with that Winterbite Exotic Glaive, and that's going to be a 22% damage boost. We've got Bomber, which is going to allow you to basically just decrease the cooldown of your cold snap grenade. Not that you ever need it, but if you get into some sort of squeaky bum time moments, then it's always there to fall back on. And your Healing Rift is also a nice one just to spot down. But on top of the healing and the freezing, we've also got the Whisper of Change, which gives you a nice damage resistance when you're nearby to frozen targets or friendly stasis crystals. Obviously pretty much everything is going to be frozen in this build, and it just adds to the survivability. In terms of other weapons, I've chucked on my Ayers Luna with Headstone, but I can't remember the last time I pulled it out, to be honest. But like I said, if you are running Onslaught, you're going to be dealing with champions. The freezing and the slowing is going to deal with Unstoppable and Overload champions. And with the artifact, I've chucked on the Acacia's Dejection, and because in the artifact you can use the Flint Striker perk to get Radiant, that's also going to double down on boosting damage for your Winterbite, but it's also going to grant you Radiant, and that is going to allow you to effectively deal with them barrier champions, which if you really want to, you can probably just hack them to death as well, because freezing them will technically stop their barrier from spawning, especially if you time it right. To cover off final mods that we've got, I've gone for the triple damage resistance with Arc, Void and Solar on the chest armor, and we've also got Powerful Attraction and Time Dilation just to increase the orb pickup radius and also increase the timer of the weapon surges that we've got rolling. But all in all, this build just has really good shutdown capabilities. Probably one of the most slept on builds in terms of the exotic synergy that we've got going on here. I know that a lot of people like to run their stasis with Aga's Scepter and whatnot, but Winterbite, man, I just have so much fun with that glaive. It is just a rootin' tootin' good time, and the hack and slash, you know, doesn't really get seen so much on the Warlock. Obviously it goes a little bit more hand in hand with the Banner of War Strand Titan, but to be fair, just the Ice Flare bolts and the freezing synergy with Winterbite on Warlock and then the cold snaps just to back that up just really just allow you to just take care of everything, and it is a great solo build, especially with that Whisper of Chains and that damage reduction, the healing capabilities from your healing rift. A lot of enemies just really aren't going to be able to do anything, but there we go, a little bit of a more casual build breakdown, something that I'm wanting to filter back in. It's been a while since we've done one of these, but I like to just go a little bit more in depth into what's going on and why I'm doing it and what I'm thinking. You guys all seem to enjoy it the last time I put a few of these ones out, so I'm going to bring a few more. Let me know what you think. If you've been here before and you're not subscribed, then please do. It just is massively appreciated and really helps the channel out more than you can imagine. Remember to like the video as well and leave a comment down below as well and let me know what you think of these type of videos. That's it for this one. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video, which you can